that Nigeria that I, for one, certainly want. Permit me to skip every other protocol and go straight to the business of the moment. And the need for urgency is self-explanatory, but I'll still explain. You see, as I stand before you this afternoon delivering this speech, there is a woman somewhere in this country that is dying. She is in the process of bringing a child into this world, but she herself will not make it. Maybe because there is no clinic in the village where she is, or the hospital where she is does not have the right equipment. I don't know why, but she herself will not make it. She will push, she will cry, she will weep, she will tire, and she will die. And sadly, she will not be alone in this journey to the afterlife today. She will be joined by 100 other Nigerian women. And tomorrow, this cycle of death will start again, because this country has the second highest rate of maternal mortality in the whole world. Every single day in this country, over 100 women perish in childbirth. In 2015 alone, over 56,000 Nigerian women died in this way. 56,000. That is more than the number of people that have died in the Northeast since the crisis began 9 years ago. You see, bad governance does more damage to the women of this country than terrorism. I tell you, as I stand before you this afternoon, in the time it will take me to make this speech, no more than 20 minutes, a Nigerian who has not yet attained the age of 5 will die. As you are watching me live, a young boy or a young girl whose only crime was being born in a country that shows little mercy to the most vulnerable amongst us will leave this earth. He or she will not be alone. He or she will be one of more than 2,300 little angels that Nigeria will send back to heaven today. Because our country has the third highest rate of infant mortality in this world. 1 out of every 5 Nigerian children does not live to see their 5th birthday. You see, bad governance does more damage to the children of this country than all the conflicts in this country put together. As I stand before you this afternoon delivering this speech, 30% of Nigerians that look like me, young, educated, capable, have no jobs at all. Do you know what it feels like to have no job? To be dependent on another adult for your food, for your clothing, for your shelter. Do you know what this feels like? I ask that generation of Nigerians that had jobs waiting for them at graduation, do you know what it feels like to get your first degree, your master's degree, even your PhD sometimes, and still have to search for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years to find a job that is still beneath your status as a graduate? Do you know what this feels like? If you know what it feels like, then you will know why there is so much anger in our voices. You will know why hundreds of Nigerians are willing to risk death to cross the Sahara Desert and the Mediterranean Sea in the hope of getting to a country where they believe that even as third-class citizens, they will be given a better shot at a decent life than in their own home country. You see, bad governance does more damage to the youth of this country than any Western propaganda or neo-colonialist agenda anywhere in this world. And that is why, over 40 years ago, Professor Chinua Achebe wrote that the trouble with Nigeria is threefold. Number 1, leadership. Number 2, leadership. Number 3, leadership. And what is this leadership we talk about? As a country 160 million strong, we generate a little more than 7,000 megawatts of power. What we need to be generating to be comfortable is over 150,000 megawatts of power. We generate 7,000 megawatts of power. We need 150,000 megawatts of power. You see the gap? Leadership is to build a bridge over that gap. The crisis in the Northeast has been raging for 9 years now. 20,000 people have died. 1.7 million people have been dislocated. Leadership is to end that crisis decisively. For the last 45 to 50 years, we have been heavily dependent on crude oil. For 45 to 50 years, we have been talking about diversification, writing about diversification, pontificating about diversification. Leadership is to get the task done. It is not to be driven around in a convoy or to occupy an office in the present. Leadership is to correctly anticipate the future on behalf of a society and to do everything that has to be done to ensure that that society has a place, a prominent place in that future. And to you here this afternoon, the polar caps are melting. Every day the oceans are rising so that beautiful cities, beautiful Nigerian cities like Victoria Island that are sitting by the sea may be gone tomorrow. As I stand before you speaking, the Sahara Desert is inching southwards. Lake Chad is shrinking so that herders in search of grazing are roaming further and further south. These are not short-term trends. These are long-term trends. Across our northern border, Gaddafi has fallen. Libya has broken open, spilling its catch of guns and ammunition all across the central savannah. But our international borders are porous. We read that there are over 1,000 illegal ways to cross, while Al-Qaeda is in North Africa, so every day small arms and ammunition keep pouring into this country. Tell me, who is thinking forward through the fog of time, looking for new solutions to these our ancient problems? For while their own leaders in the West are aggressively expanding into the furthest reaches of the universe, sending spaceships beyond Mars, we are here aggressively refortifying the boundaries of our villages to keep out non-indigents. Tell me, who is looking forward through the fog of time, thinking out new solutions to our problems? That agriculture in this country is still rain-fed, that women still routinely die in childbirth, that children are still being crippled by polio in the 21st century, that the roads the Benin Empire built and maintained 1,000 years ago, that the modern Nigerian state struggles to build and maintain roads in the 21st century. Tell me, who is thinking forward through the fog of time, looking for a credible path to an alternative future for this country? For this is what leadership is. It is not to occupy the office on behalf of any ethno-religious bloc in this country in the name of power sharing. No. For of what benefit is it to me if a member of my ethnic group is the Minister of Health when there are no clinics in my village? Of what benefit is it to me if a member of my ethnic group is the Minister of Defense when there is no security in my local government area? Of what benefit is it to me if a member of my ethnic group is the Minister of Works and Housing when there is no roads to take my produce from the market to the town? I tell you, what we need is not our people in government. What we need is good governance for our people. Because if Nigeria does not survive, it will not be because the Christian cannot get along with the Muslim, because the Christian and Muslim get along just fine in Senegal. If Nigeria does not survive, it will not be because North and South cannot get along, because North and South get along just fine in Ghana. If Nigeria does not survive, it will not be because we speak different languages, because the multilingual society is doing well in Switzerland. If Nigeria does not survive, it will not be because we have different ethnic groups, because the multi-ethnic state is doing fine in Botswana. If Nigeria does not survive, it will be because we do not have roads, we do not have lights, we do not have hospitals. If Nigeria does not survive, it will be because we do not have good leadership. And that generation of Nigerians that has provided leadership for the last 50 years must take responsibility for the state of affairs today. It is true that many positive things have been achieved in the last 50 years. We are grateful for this and we do not take it for granted. However, you cannot deny the fact that when an average Nigerian looks back today and refers to the past as the good old days, there's a lot of truth in this, because things have gotten worse. And if it is not apparent to us as we sit here in the center of this beautiful city, it is because everything you see around you is a mirage. All you have to do is drive on any road outside Abuja, and before long you will know that there is poverty, that there is lack, and that there is trouble in this land. We need change. Real change. Not to simply change the person running the ministry, but to change the way the ministry is run. Not to simply change the person heading the country, but to change where the country is headed. Not to simply change the people that comprise government, but to change the style, the approach, the impact of governance on the people. That is what we want, to be able to find decent jobs where we can save enough money over time to buy and own our own homes and send our children to schools where they can get an education that will position them to be better than us tomorrow. This is what we want. Now I know that tomorrow somebody may come and tell me that what I should be fighting for is a Christian state, or a Sharia state, or a monocultural state. I know that tomorrow somebody may come here to tell me that it is really the Hausa that is my enemy, or the Fulani that is my enemy, or the Yoruba that is my enemy, or the Igbo that is my enemy. But even though I wear glasses, I tell you that I can see very clearly in this context. I know who my enemy is. As a young progressive Nigerian who is desirous to see myself fulfill my potential as a citizen of the world's largest black nation, I know who my enemy is. My enemy is that public official who will not do his job. My enemy is that minister who is not competent to hold that position. My enemy is that governor who sits on local government funds so that he can use it to fight his next election. My enemy is that state that leaves crimes and murders unsolved so that they can continue to feed rumors and feed the paranoia of already traumatized people to set community against community, neighbor against neighbor, religion against religion. This is who my enemy is. And until we can come together to fight this enemy, then, as a poet friend of mine likes to say, we are simply going round and round and round about, handing the baton of power from one ineffective leader to the next, so that today the Christian will misgovern the country, and then tomorrow in the name of power shift, the Muslim will misgovern the country, so that today the Northerner will misgovern the country, and then tomorrow in the name of power shift, the Southerner will misgovern the country. If we are to break this cycle of mediocrity, then we must tackle frontally the culture of poor governance in this country. Otherwise, we are simply going round and round the roundabout. And that is why movements like this are important. Because at every election, typically, we are giving candidates that are representative of the major ethno-religious blocks in this country. So you can look at a candidate and say, okay, this candidate is representing the North. This candidate is representing the South. This one is representing the East. That one is representing the West. But how many times are you giving a candidate and you can look at that candidate and say, this candidate is representing the poor. This candidate is representing the interest of small business owners. This candidate is representing those people who are tired of paying taxes and not getting back any reciprocal services from the government. This candidate is representing people who have worked for the government for 30 years and are now struggling to collect their pension. This candidate is representing military officers who have paid the ultimate price only to leave behind destitute families. This candidate is representing parents who don't have enough money to send their children to private schools or cannot tolerate the conditions in public schools. This candidate is representing those who have lost loved ones to preventable medical conditions due to negligence. When was the last time you went to the elections and you were given a candidate who represented not a region, but an interest that cuts across all regions and all faiths? That is why movements like this are very important, because the politics of this country has to be fundamentally challenged in at least three important respects. One, we must challenge the belief that the people of Nigeria can only be mobilized politically around issues of tribe and faith. We need leaders who will demonstrate a capacity to build movements, not around identity, but around the lack of roads, around the lack of power, around the lack of jobs for our young people. A politics of ideas, a politics of ideology, a politics of conviction. Two, we must challenge the belief that the people of Nigeria cannot be motivated to act politically except by financial inducement. We need leaders who will demonstrate the capacity to motivate us, not by putting money in our hands, but by putting hope in our hearts. Thirdly, we need to challenge the belief that the attainment of public office elevates the public office holder above the citizen, putting him or her out of the reach of accountability to ordinary Nigerians. We are tired of being a country of people who carry bags for politicians, open gate for politicians, say yes and yes ma to ineffective politicians. We must demonstrate to ourselves again that leadership is indeed a call to serve, not lord it over the people. And we must demonstrate to the world that democracy, that this government of the people, by the people, and for the people can flourish in an African nation. Until we are able to do this, we cannot be content with the current political arrangements. We must continue to build new coalitions, forge new partnerships, experiment and explore until we find a template that is able to deliver representative government, yes, but also government that is responsive to our socio-economic needs. And until we find this, we cannot rest in our desire for a new Nigeria or give in to the thinking that as things are, so they shall always be. This is not true. And therefore I call upon the National Rescue Movement to not only change the face of Nigeria, but to change the brain of Nigeria, to change the mind of Nigeria, to change the soul of Nigeria, to change the heart of Nigeria. Thank you very much.